Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's your guy Coldfire. And as you know, we just wrapped up all of Patsy Cline's recordings and her appearances on shows and everything. And so now I'm going to bring you one of the most accurate documentaries that's out there. I got turned on by Patsy Cline by watching Coal Miner's Daughter. And when Beverly D'Angelo played Patsy Cline, even though she wasn't singing the Patsy Cline song, I knew there was something powerful about the character. And so I remember one day, because every Sunday we would always go out as a family, and my mother would give us like $5 each to go in after we went to KFC, and we'd get to buy what we wanted to with $5. Back then, $5 could pretty much buy you a good bit of stuff. But I remember where they were selling LPs, and I came across the greatest hits album of Patsy Cline. So I'm like, oh my God, I've got to have this. I want to see what she actually sounds like. At the time, I did not pay too much close to the movie because I was so young, and my older brother and sister were into Loretta Lynn, and the movie was so big that everyone was into it, even if you weren't country. But I never knew that she was, killed in a plane crash, because when you're young, you just see her at the door waving goodbye to Patsy, and then, it came on the radio, but I don't remember any of that part. I just remember the parts where she sang at and her and Loretta were hanging out. It was just a brief little chapter in Coal Miner's Daughter, but it stimulated my brain enough to say, I want to know more about this person. Because my oldest sister always played Loretta Lynn and, the Tammy Wynette and stuff like that. But I guess I had a different taste in music, and there was just something about that. So it turns out that after I bought that album, I just couldn't get enough of Patsy Cline. And that's when my mother told me that, because I remember saying, I said, I would love to be able to see her live in person. And she's like, honey, I'm sorry to tell you, but Patsy Cline was killed in a plane crash in 1963, long before you were born. And that broke my heart, because I was like, my idol, I'll never be able to see my idol in real life. But thanks to technology and everything and stuff that's coming out, we're seeing more things being released. I don't know if it's by the estate or people are finding things. But we're getting, there are, as you see, that we reacted to a few of her TV performances, and the Cimarron Ballroom, which was a small concert that she put on right after her car accident. But it was things like that, and that was found at a garage sale for $5. Lord have mercy. But anyways, we're going to get into the documentary, and it's going to have special guest appearances and tell you, basically what all I've been telling you throughout the Patsy Cline journey. But I always wanted to play this documentary. Hope that it doesn't get blocked. It's my own CD, playing it off my computer. So I hope that it turns out okay. And I will stop it periodically so that it does not hopefully get blocked. So without further ado, let's dive into the Patsy Cline documentary, and it's called Crazy. I think the actual name of the CD, When Patsy Cline Was Crazy. And I guess that meant that back then, crazy took on a different word. It was like, she was just like, so well known and everything, it was so crazy. Does that make sense? I don't know. Anyways, let's get started.
In 1932, in Winchester, Virginia, Hilda Patterson was to be married to 42-year-old Sam Hensley. A week later, Virginia Patterson Hensley was born.
Before I start this, I have to say it's incredible that they said that he was in his 40s. Do you know how old Patsy Cline's mother was when she married him? 15 years old. So that goes to show you that Patsy Cline and her mother were only a little over a decade apart. So they were more like sisters than they were mother and daughter. But I just want to point that out because I don't think that it said comparison.
The little Jenny Hensley the world would come to know as Patsy Cline. A few months later, her mother Hilda turned 17.
Patsy Cline was born in 1932. The Great Depression is going on. Those are some dark times.
In her first 16 years of life, her family moved 19 times. He would go many, many places to seek work. Lots of times the young bride and the baby would be with him, and then lots of times not.
The best of the job Sam had was as boilerman at the aristocratic Washington and Lee University, where the young family were housed on campus.
When she opened her window, she could hear the world, and part of the world was these big bands there at Washington and Lee University.
Real big bands, some of the biggest in the country, and each of them had a girl singer.
She could start to sing along, mimic what was going on, and that developed in her a fascination for pop music, big band music.
She loved listening to music. She knew music very well from the time she was a little girl.
But soon Sam was out of work and things would take a turn for the worse. Hilda, poor but proud, made a bold move.
She left Sam. She packed up the 3 kids and what little bit she had, found this house in Winchester and settled her family in $27.50 a month rent.
A single mother living a life like many women are doing today, and this was back when it was unheard of.
They did not have the means to connect with local electricity or local water.
They both kind of grew into adulthood together, and being that she was a few years older than her siblings, she helped with them a lot. She actually did not attend school past the 8th grade.
Hilda sewed for the rich and the wealthy folks. She also took in washing and ironing, especially the business, the white shirts, and she would also babysit.
Now, could you imagine paying $20-something a month for a house? I mean, it wasn't like, you know, an extravagant house, but it looked okay from what the pictures are showing. Because when she was with, when her mother was with her father, they would live in the car, they would live in shacks, the wrong side of the tracks, so to speak. So I guess this would be considered a step up that her mother took back then to get away from whatever was going on. From what I heard, it was a very abusive relationship. And she moved them into a house for, I think they said it was $27.50 a month. That is crazy. You can't even rent a motel room in a bad part of town for $20-something. Unless you want to not wake up the next morning. But anyways, let's carry on.
I came here to WINC in 1945 as, well, a little hillbilly group. We weren't country music then. We were hillbillies.
Country music is not the choice here at that time. However, Jumpin' Joltin' Jim McCoy had a country show on Saturday mornings. Hilda and Jenny would listen to the radio, and Jim McCoy would make the offer, come on by. So she went there one Saturday morning.
I can remember walking right up to the window and pushing her nose right up to the glass and looking in. And finally one day, she said she wanted to sing.
She liked to entertain, but I think it was a way to not only have a dream, but to help out.
She starts singing in bars and supper clubs, both country and pop music, when she was 14 years old. She made her way down to the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville for an audition before she was even old enough to appear.
Down in Dallas, near the palace, I met a boy who was so cute. I loved his hugging, I loved his kissing, as we sat in his little red coupe. He said, tell me confidentially, how much do you love me? Well, I thought a while and then I smiled, and this is what I told him, don't you see?
She did outrageous things, like bright red lipstick. She wore men's pants, men's dungarees. You just didn't do that. The 50s was very prim, very proper.
She told me that she had to quit school when she was 16, and she worked at a meat packing place.
And it was her job to slit the throats of the chickens as they came down the conveyor belt. That job didn't last because she's underage. They found out. From there, she went to the local Greyhound bus station, where she cleaned the buses, worked the counter, cleaned the restrooms.
Patsy started working at a local drugstore and would do that during the day. And then at night, she would sit in with bands around the area and get a chance to sing.
Dr. Gaunt was very lenient with her. And if there was a talent contest during the day, he would let her go. There were a lot of talent contests then, and she never missed an opportunity to enter any contest. She never won.
First time I met Patsy, Connie B. Gay brought her in to a club I was working in Washington, D.C. called The Famous. And we'd all heard about this girl singer that was working with Bill Peer around in Winchester and stuff.
By her 20th birthday, Jenny leaves her day job and joins up with Bill Peer and the Melody Boys, playing regular dates in halls and clubs, and makes local TV appearances.
I love you, money. I love your...
She starts to sing with Jimmy Dean. But in the meantime, she's at one of the clubs in Brunswick, and she meets this gentleman by the name of Cline. He was older, he was mature, some money, and probably the opportunity for a stable home life.
Yeah, that is quite ironic that it was March 7th, I think, when they actually located the plane crash that she was in, because I think it went down on March the 5th, but they didn't find the body until the next day or so. So it was close to that. And I have to point out that her first husband, the reason why she kept the last name Cline was because when Walking After Midnight came out, she won the show, and she felt that if she changed her last name, it would be like starting over again. And probably somewhere subliminally in their consciousness, you know, if she was introduced as Patsy Dick, that doesn't sound too stagey. Patsy Cline rolls more off the lips, maybe because we've only heard her by that name mentioned. If she had used Patsy Dick, maybe, you know, things could have been different. You never know, because the stage name is everything. It's just like Marilyn Monroe. You know, her name is Norma Jean Daughtry, and people would probably easily forget that name, but Marilyn Monroe, it just clicked. And a lot of people back then in entertainment changed their name. So her first name, Patsy, came from her full name, Virginia Patterson Hensley. So she took Patterson, and of course she was always brought up being called Jenny, which was short for Virginia, some kind of way, I don't know. And but she took the name Patterson, shortened it to Patsy, knew what the meaning of the word meant, so that it would carry her further and show that she would not get pushed over and be a Patsy, if that makes any sense. But let's carry on. She wasn't satisfied with the first husband.
Clearly, there was some assumption that she would change for him, and she didn't share in that assumption.
When you grow up with nothing and you think that there's, you want stability, you want stability, but not in that kind of way.
In order to try to take her career to the next level, Patsy signed a record deal with a company called 4-Star Records.
Each night down on my knees I pray your gambling ways will end. Turn the card slowly.
Bill Peer, acting as her manager, sealed the deal. Jenny, now known as Patsy Cline, would earn half the industry standard, a meager 2.34%, minus deductions.
The owner of 4-Star, Bill McCall, the contract that he had her under, he had final approval of all the songs that she recorded. He wanted her to record just songs that he owned the publishing to, so he could make money on the publishing rights and the song rights.
The hope is these people have offered me a deal, so at least I can get a physical record made and get some music out there, and maybe it will catch the attention of somebody.
I definitely can understand how, how enslaved almost that feels. Like you really feel like your hands are tied. You really have to get permission to do everything and what music you're recording, and it's definitely kind of soul-sucking.
Unfortunately, it was not a great deal. It was a great deal for 4-Star.
People at 4-Star had asked me to see if I could make some records with her. This was like a big opportunity for me. We made an arrangement to lease arrangements from 4-Star to Dhaka, and he asked me if I would record Patsy, and he said she was not too easy to get along with. I found it to be very pleasant, and she was not, maybe she was like I was. She was just trying to get along. He was trying to become a singer, and I was trying to become an A&R man, so we were sort of in the same boat.
I'd like to do one of my favorites that I recorded some time back, a church, a courtroom, and then goodbye.
The first song we did was the church, the courtroom, and goodbye, which is a typical country song, and it did fairly well.
The first thing was the church, then the altar, where we claimed each other with tears of joy we cried. Our friends wished us luck there forever as we walked from the church side by side.
She was a terrific singer, probably sang more pop than she did country. And that was a problem. She was going to make pop records. She should have gone to New York or Hollywood or Chicago or someplace.
Then I heard the judge make his decision, and no longer were we man and wife.
When Patsy started out with wearing the cowgirl fringed outfits, I think she was just looking at her idols and trying to emulate what they did, and Patsy couldn't afford to buy the fancy cowboy outfits.
Mom would design clothes and my grandmother would make them. She was a wonderful seamstress.
Our church, our courtroom, and then goodbye.
Oh, it's back. Cline. Honey, that was real, real wonderful.
Thank you so much, Ernest.
Isn't that incredible that, it was like he was saying that he already knew that she had the pop appeal, and he often wondered why she never went to a place where it would have been a little bit easier for her, maybe, like, New York City or LA, where pop was real big at the time. But at the same time, when the bigger the city is, the more you blend in and you get overlooked when you're starting out. So I think Nashville was probably the best choice for her because she got to perform on the Grand Ole Opry and show off her talents and then sign with Owen Bradley. Like I said, that was a crappy deal that she was stuck in at a 2.34% minus deductions. That was basically working for free. And she had no control over what she sang. Which goes to show you all the earlier stuff that I reacted to. She did great on all of them. It was like she was getting paid a lot of money to do them with. But I think it all boils down to she liked to sing. And she liked to prove that she could sing. And even if she knew the song wasn't going to go anywhere, she still put her heart and soul into it. And therefore, she knew it would pay off one day. I'm pretty sure. She was very confident.
April 1956, Patsy had her third recording session with Owen, and her path would cross with another special someone.
I've loved and lost again. Oh, what a crazy world we're living in.
Patsy was singing at a club, and a good-looking young guy came up and asked her if she wanted to dance. And she said, "No, I'm working, I don't dance." But that guy was Charlie Dick.
I started going to dances, and I started going to the one in Maryville, Virginia at the Armory, where this group called the Country Crackers were playing. And we went there for a long time before I ever seen Patsy, but then she was on a Jimmy Dean show in Washington at the same time, and she came in there and started working for them on Friday nights, and doing the Dean show on Saturday night.
Patsy and Charlie, who both liked to have fun and loved music, Charlie especially loved Patsy's music, became a couple.
Don't seem to matter anymore.
My brother told my mother, "I'm going to bring Patsy Cline home tonight." And I think she didn't believe it. She'd seen her on TV. They were very well suited because they were both from this side of town. They weren't dirt poor, but they didn't have a lot. So they had that whole complete thing in common. He dropped out of school at an early age. She dropped out of school at a fairly early age. They both had mothers, did not have fathers.
I've loved and lost again.
They both liked to be on the run all the time. Her first husband, Gerald Cline, kind of liked her to be more of a homebody. But as soon as Charlie met her, she said, "Let's go here or there." He had a car running before she could get out to the car.
They'll tell you you're out of style.
I noticed her record collection. She had records of about every female you could think of. K-Star was a very big influence. Sophie Tucker, she had some of her records, which were naughty records at the time, but she tried them all.
I've loved and lost again.
Patsy gets a letter from an eager fan asking to start a fan club and replies, "I am 23 years of age, stand 5 feet 5.5 inches, weigh 135 pounds, and have brown hair and eyes. My favorite foods are chicken and spaghetti. Also, I collect salt and pepper shakers and earrings. P.S. I don't have a fan club, and would you send me the information on just what it does?" By the end of 1955, Patsy and the country music community were faced with the onslaught of rock and roll. Bill Haley and the Comets were at #1 with Rock Around the Clock. Doo-wop was on its way out. Chuck Berry and Little Richard were making their way into our living rooms.
In the mid-50s, rock and roll starts taking over, and country music loses a lot of its audience.
When Elvis hit, people here in town said, "We've got to do something to try to make our music more acceptable to a wider audience."
The response to that was, well, okay, if we've lost this bit of the core audience, we need to find some other folks who will pay attention to this music. And they did that by leaning towards pop music, by taking some steel guitars out and putting some string sections and heavy backing vocal choruses in. And they created what was called the Nashville sound. And Patsy Cline was well suited to that sound.
In the 50s, there was a show called Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts, and it was kind of like the American Idol of the day. People would come and perform, and there would be audience reaction to decide who won.
Patsy got the call. Could she be in New York the following Monday? So naturally she said yes, and her mother was going to act as her talent scout.
Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scout.
Keep in mind that, yes, she did have to fake it to say that she was her talent agent, because a member of the family could not be your talent scout. It had to be someone that was outside of that ring. And her mother did not like doing that. Being the Christian woman she was, she did not like to lie. But she knew that Patsy had her heart set on this, and she knew that somewhere deep down inside, Patsy had convinced her, Mom, this is gonna put me on the map, and we're gonna live better. But she fibbed her way through well, and see, I read the whole 700-page book that came out by Ellis Nassour, The True Life of Patsy Cline, and at the end, he did call them in the office, and he saw through it that they were mother and daughter. He saw the chemistry and everything else. But let's carry on.
This is Hilda Hensley, Mrs. Hensley. Now tell us, Miss Hensley, whom did you bring?
Arthur Godfrey's people did not want family to be there as a representative, so you had to have a manager.
Well, I brought a young girl from Virginia who is on Decca Records, Miss Patsy Cline.
From Winchester?
That's right.
What's the name of her song?
Walking After Midnight.
And Patsy Cline from Winchester, Virginia. Known her all your life, have you?
Yes, just about.
So they kind of fibbed. And my grandmother introduced her friend that she had brought along, and no one ever asked a question.
Where did she work professionally?
Well, she is a regular member of the cast of Town and Country Jamboree, and she has made a personal appearance on the Grand Ole Opry from Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Miss Hensley, my neighbor. And here, through your kindness, is Patsy Cline.
It was a female producer who said, you know, let's get rid of the cowgirl look and get you in something more sophisticated, sleeker, which would appeal to the people between New York and LA.
I do think that that was her big break, in that it portrayed a visual, you know, of Patsy that said, I'm not just the girl in the fringy cowgirl outfit, there's more.
Patsy, honey. You done won, man. You take all those nice people out there. Bless your little heart. Sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down. Before you have a heart attack. Sit down here. How many of these have you ever won?
This is the first.
It's the first one. Is that the first record you made?
No, I've got 4 records made.
Have you had any hits?
No.
You know, I got a hunch this one is.
Oh, I hope so.
Oh, this is commercial, isn't it? Isn't it commercial?
Owen and Patsy's collaboration proved the Nashville sound worked.
Decca hadn't even released the song yet. They had to rush release it.
She won the Arthur Godfrey Show, and she earns, in this short period of time, $10,000. So what does she do? She gives it all to her mother. So with that $10,000, Hilda pays the mortgage of the house here, 608 South Penn Street.
After midnight, searching for you.
$10,000 for a house. And gives it all to her mother.
Walkin' climbs to number 3 on the country charts and to number 16 on the pop charts.
I've done Walking After Midnight. You just can't do it like Patsy. I mean, that's your own rendition. But you know when somebody starts singing one of those songs, oh, that's Patsy's song.
That's one of the first songs I started singing of hers. You know, I would be 8 or 9 years old on the Opry with like my super country outfit.
I go out walking after midnight.
Her becoming a pop sensation was huge because nobody had done that in country. It was called country and western up until that point.
After midnight, searching for you.
Her career was coming together, but her marriage to Gerald had fallen apart.
I met Patsy, and it was in April of '56. And just about the time we got everything squared away and she was going to get a divorce and all that, then she was in Nashville. I won't forget, she was down here and she was staying at June Carter's house. And I came home one day and found some greetings from the President of the United States. And they said he wanted my body in North Carolina.
With Charlie drafted, Patsy heads to Nashville to record the new album.
And here with a brand new tune called 3 Cigarettes is pretty Miss Patsy Cline.
Two cigarettes and an ashtray. My love and I in a small cafe. Then a stranger came along and everything went wrong. Now there's 3 cigarettes in the ashtray.
3 cigarettes in the ashtray. It just paints such a great visual. Just talking about a plain object, you know. If it was a painter doing still life, she nailed that.
And his love is no longer my own.
1957, 3 wonderful things happened to Patsy. The Arthur Godfrey Show, the papers, she's divorced from Gerald, and she marries Charlie.
And watch one cigarette burn away.
Trapped in a bad record deal, the hit didn't translate to cash into Patsy's pocket. The road provided the only viable means to earn a living.
The fact that she could record a hit like Walking After Midnight and not seeing a really good chunk of that money, I mean, that's been the problem with the industry from the beginning.
At that time, that Patsy's income was probably half that of many of the male artists of that day. She didn't get what she really deserved as a performer.
And watch one cigarette burn away.
Broke but happy, Patsy and Charlie get married, and she rounds out the year as her career gains traction.
While I was in the Army, after Patsy's divorce became final, I took furlough and came home, and we got married September the 15th, 1957, in Winchester at Patsy's mother's house. We had a real nice home, quiet wedding, but then a nice party after.
Now come on in, sit right down and make yourself at home. If I had one wish I could go back to my own neighborhood where the good folks, they all love you at their own.
The song that I always say breaks the ice with the audience, which is one of my favorite songs, was a song called Come On In and Sit Right Down and Make Yourself at Home. It breaks the ice, and everybody seems to relax and say, hey, I'm a part of this. I'm with her. That's what this is about.
I wish that I could hear them say in the good old-fashioned friendly way, come on in, sit right down and make yourself at home.
I don't see how you can stand up there and deliver something so emotively as she did and not believe it. Because if she did, she's a damn fine actress, you know.
Has them for his own. If I go back to hear them pray in the little pine church, they always say, come on in and sit right down and make yourself at home.
We were living closer to the Army base where Dad was, and Mom had come home for me to be born, and then Dad had a few days off and was there. When he got out of the Army, we came back to Winchester for just a little while. We ended up in Nashville when I was about a year old.
Now come on in, sit right down and make yourself at home.
We decided we would come to Nashville, but didn't have any money. When I got out of the Army, Patsy was getting an allotment check of $137 a month. I got out a month early. And the first month after I got out, she still got the check. So we didn't think nothing about it. Thought maybe, when we first started getting it, it started a month late or whatever. So we spent it. And then the next check came. So we ended up, we got, including the one we spent, we had 7 checks. Well, after the first one, we didn't spend them because we knew damn well they weren't ours. And then when we decided we was going to move to Nashville, we ran to the bank and cashed all of them at one time and took off.
Patsy came to Music City. The doors weren't just flying open for her to come in and try to wow everybody. There was a bit of a good old boy network.
In the early days that I came along, women weren't headliners. It was really a man's field. And if they had women at all, it was just one, never more than one on a bill.
You can't push back unless you've got the goods, and especially in a good old boy network.
Come on back with a jive, let's let them know that we're alive until the break of dawn. We'll yell for more.
You never would be offensive and start the situation, but you didn't walk on her.
Very, very a strong woman. I mean, she just, that was just what you saw when you saw Patsy Cline, strong. Her voice was strong, her attitude was strong, and I wouldn't want to go against her in any way.
There's a lot of people who can sing, but not connect. And she was this kind of storyteller that connected with that back row and was able to make that person feel like she was singing it to them.
I think I got a job about 3 days after we got down here. So that gave us eating money anyhow. And the only work Patsy got then was occasionally she'd get a guest shot on the Opry. And the only other work was most of the long tours, because we didn't have interstates, and people didn't run back in over weekends. When you left, I got you was gone, and they was 30, 40-day tours. And they averaged between $50 and $100 a day, which, at 30 days, you got a little money, but you got to pay all your expenses out there.
Part of the arrangement was that Mr. McCall, who was in charge of 4-Star, would send us all this material, and then we could pick any of the songs out of that stack, whatever it was. If they were good, that was good. If they were bad, you could pick the best 4 out of the bad stack or whatever.
90% of the records that we made with her were flops. The songs were not good, and they were trying to make them into something better than they were.
By the end of the year, 4-Star still owed her money, but new manager Randy Hughes was prepared to make some changes.
She wanted to be on the Opry band. And back then you had to have a hit song. to get on. And we came down here and, it was pretty cliquey in Nashville. But she didn't give a damn. She's going to go after it anyhow and try.
The Opry was the holy grail. It still is, like, to people like me. To be a Grand Ole Opry star was the highest honor any country music singer could have.
She did a guest shot on Friday night and 2 shots on Saturday night. She might have got $25.
But on one of her appearances, she was reprimanded for her choice in wardrobe.
Patsy Cline, come here, honey. Lord help, where'd you get those pants?
I think I wore pants the first time I played the Opry. I think I did. I was like, maybe it was just, it was in honor of her and I didn't even know it.
She's one of my favorites, Patsy Cline.
She had the style and the charisma and the sound. She had it. Oh, yeah.
We were just really waiting out, biding our time to get out of that 4-star contract. And then hopefully we'd find somebody that wanted to give her a better contract. But see, she hadn't had any offers from anybody else either. So we're trying to get out of a bad contract, but we don't know we're going to get into a better one yet.
Most of us were so desperate to get a record deal, we would probably all sign the same deal.
How can I face tomorrow when I know I'm losing you?
My brother became the vice president of Decca, and he didn't think that Patsy would sign with him because they had all flops other than Walking After Midnight. And he came in and told her and said, I just got a call from Patsy Cline. She says if we'll give her $1,000, we'll sign with her.
I thought she probably should go into any other label she wanted to, and I said, I'm thrilled that she wants to stay.
I say she was more excited about her career than anything else when she finally started getting paid. When she got that first advance, that was the happiest one person I ever saw.
How can I face tomorrow when I know I'm losing you?
Patsy Cline and Owen Bradley were a match made in musical heaven for sure, if not actual heaven.
Okay, I want to stop it right there because I want to make it into 2-part series because with the talking and everything, no one wants to watch an hour and a half to 2 hours of footage in one sitting. So I'm going to cut this into 2 parts. It looks like she's getting ready to become Patsy Cline, the icon. But yeah, the things that she had to do, working the roads and not making any money, and the fact that that 4-star record still owed her money and was not paying her, that was just wrong. That was just so wrong in so many levels. Especially, I mean, she wasn't really getting paid that much, but she obviously was turning out enough revenue where they couldn't even afford to pay her. But anyways, Owen takes care of her. And we will see you on the second part of this and finish it up. And until then, you guys have a great day. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Bye-bye.